All right, thank you for everybody joining today. We will start momentarily. All right, as you're coming in, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share where you're joining us from today. Again, we'll start momentarily, guys. All right, looks like we have most everyone in. Kate, all right, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Soleil. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. And thank all of you for welcoming us into your homes today. I'm Kate Markert, Executive Director at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens in Washington, D.C. Now that it feels more like winter, I will invite everyone in the DC area to bundle up and come visit Hillwood. We have a lot of special seasonal treats for you here. You can join Jessica Bonilla, who is our Director of Horticulture, throughout December to get behind the scenes tours of the winter bones of our gardens. And while you're here, please be sure to see our special exhibition, Grace of Monaco, Princess in Dior. There's only a month left before this fabulous exhibition closes on January 8th. As you know, Hillwood is exquisitely decorated for the holidays, which we will learn much more about in just a few minutes. Hillwood is truly a wonderful place to spend a winter's day. We hope you'll join us to see the exhibition and the holiday decorations before we close then for a few weeks in January. To find more about Hillwood programs, please visit www.hillwoodmuseum.org. And as always, we hope you'll consider joining if you haven't already. And as a member, you can take advantage of all of your discounts in the museum shop, the cafe, and our wonderful programs. Now let's turn our attention to today's presentation, a virtual tour of Hillwood's beautiful holiday decorations. They enliven both our indoor and our outdoor spaces. You'll find fabulous themed trees in 4 rooms on the first floor of the mansion and another in the visitors center. Today, we will hear from 2 speakers. For the first time this year, Hillwood has commissioned a local designer to create her very own special tree in the visitors center. Quintice Hill-Matuszek of Studio Q Designs created the magnificent Christmas tree standing just as you enter the space from the parking lot on the first floor. We are so pleased to have Quintice take on this challenge and bedazzle our visitors with her inventive design. After Quintice, we will hear from Hillwood's in-house floral and decor designer, Amy Wilbur, who will share her inspirations for the mansion's holiday trees and holiday decor. Before we hear from them, I'd like to tell you a bit about both of our speakers. Quintice Hill-Matuszek grew up learning how to design and create beautiful things. From her mother, she learned how to sew draperies and slipcovers, and she accompanied her father in his passion project, a part-time landscaping business. She studied mechanical engineering and interior design at the University of Maryland and Montgomery College, and worked under some of the area's most accomplished designers before establishing Studio Q in Alexandria, Virginia in 2012. Through her own business, she regularly employs her engineering background to craft truly unique environments for her clients. In 2016, the Washington Post featured the roof terrace design Quintice produced for the DC Design House. She's since been featured in several publications and TV programs that have highlighted her diverse skill sets. Amy Wilbur became the floral and event decor designer at Hillwood in November of 2016. Amy has over 25 years of experience as a floral designer. She received a bachelor's degree in fine art from Miami University of Ohio and a Master of Fine Arts from the Rochester Institute of Technology, School of American Crafts. Prior to joining Hillwood, Amy created sculptures and exhibited her installations at galleries and public spaces in Washington, D.C. Now for today's program, please make yourselves comfortable as your cameras and microphones are turned off. Feel free to submit any questions via the Q&A function in the Zoom menu. We will moderate questions at the end of today's program for both of our designers. Quintice and Amy, it is such a joy to have you both with us virtually. Thank you so much. Quintice, you're starting us off by telling us all about your tree in the visitor center. We can't wait to hear all about it.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was such an honor to be asked to contribute designs to the Hillwood this year, and I am super excited to be the designer that was chosen to do it. So I was asked to kind of create something that was different, but also really encompassed Marjorie and her different multifaceted layers of her life. And so I came up with the concept of this tree to be sort of a tree within a tree, to kind of exhibit those layers, then also adding a lot of luxury and opulence to the tree to kind of encompass everything that she was about, how the mansion is so glorious and so voluptuous and so interesting. We did a lot of back and forth with the tree. I worked with a company called M&S Steel in Stafford, Virginia, and they helped me to fabricate the tree, the exoskeleton of the tree. I was really excited to do this because, as Kate mentioned, I have an engineering mindset to my designs. And so I created the exoskeleton first and then added sort of onto the elements of that. So the whole exoskeleton of the tree is actually constructed out of steel. So it's incredibly, incredibly difficult to create, but it was a lot of fun to design. Next slide. As you can see, part of the process of doing this starts with drawings, and I had created these drawings and sent them to MS Steel, and they take those drawings and put them into the computer, and the computer then goes to routing out these intricate designs and shapes that will then also be rolled into this hot press machine, as you can see there on the left, to help create the curves and the different type of structural architectural structure of the tree. So it was really interesting to be able to work with that kind of elements. It's a slight departure from what I do interior design wise, but it was a lot of fun to be able to create something that was both aesthetically pleasing and also really intricate in terms of engineering this, because we couldn't just do it out of any any materials. Next slide. After I had installed the inner tree and did all of the decor on the tree, we had to basically figure out the logistics of how to put this tree together, because it is made out of steel. It wasn't like we could just bring this entire tree into the museum and just place it there and that would be it. We had to design it so that it was brought in layers. And so because it was also done in layers, structurally, we had to design it so that it would hold one another on top of each other. And so you can see in this slide here, the progression of the tiers as it went up. Next slide. Once the tree was finished and we had the look that I was after with the inner tree, and then also adding a lot of the decor on the outside of the tree, I added the starburst top to it. That's a separate piece, but we, again, wanted to make sure that it still had that essence of a Christmas tree and was very recognizable. And so I did the starburst tree topper and then moved along to doing the garland. Next slide. So you can see some more of the details here with the tree topper on the left. You can also see a little bit more of how we utilized ornaments on the exterior exoskeleton of the tree as well. And the way that that was done was actually through magnets. I put together using a lot of different elements, such as little jewelry parts, different parts and pieces I handmade together to then put them onto magnets that would then attach to the tree once we had it on site. Next slide. A lot of this tree was developed around the concept of highlighting the different aspects of her life and some of the moments in her life. And so we added the photographs of different points and moments in Marjorie's life that were inspirational or that were very important to her. And we used these gilded frames to do that. So we added these gilded frames on the exoskeleton of the tree to highlight the moments. Next slide. You can see some of the different things. So to the left is the Fabergé, one of the Fabergé eggs in her collection, the General Foods logo, and also the picture of Marjorie on the right. Next slide. Again, a few more details up close. You can see how the ornaments were attached magnetically to the steel frame. You can't see the magnets because, like I said, they are behind different ornamental pieces used out of jewelry. Next slide. Next slide. Here you can see a little bit better the garland. When I designed the garland, I wanted it to be very full and luxurious. The color palette was derived from all of the wonderful lush pinks I saw within the mansion. Amy was gracious enough with her time to give me a beautiful tour of the mansion, and that was the color that really struck me. And so I went with the pink, and I added mint greens, excuse me, mint greens and golds and lots of champagne colors to give it that luxurious feel. The lace and pearl ornaments were also added to give, again, that sense of jewelry and luxury, kind of inspired by her jewelry collections. Next slide. The garland really was a lot of fun to create because I got to just be kind of ethereal with it and whimsy, and it just kind of feels really lush when you come into the space. Next slide. Again, as you can see here, some more of the details. You can see the pearls, some of the starburst, and the mercury glass ornaments that we used. This tree was a lot of fun to create, and I was really excited to be able to be a part of this. And I, again, thank the Hillwood for welcoming me into this whole process. And I really enjoyed myself, and I look forward to meeting those who tour the museum as well. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Quintice. It was such an honor to have you come in as one of our guest designers, our first guest designer ever to come in and do a tree. And I think that the vision that you had for the tree and how it came to fruition was absolutely amazing. So we are all very excited that you have entered into the Hillwood holiday spirit with us. And I am going to talk about the trees that we have in the mansion for today. So every year we always try and base our tree designs off of the current exhibition. So right now it is based off of the amazing dresses. And these were something that I was able to see in person. This was like back, I want to say in July. And, you know, had really started thinking about what we were going to be doing for the holidays all the way back in the summer. So one of the things that happens for people who don't know the process of the tree designs for Hillwood is that it's several departments, and we all get together and we meet and we discuss what's going to be happening. We also talk about what the exhibit's going to be and how it is that we're going to bring something that is in an exhibition, and how do we create that into a tree? I feel like this year, taking the dresses as inspiration to then visually become a tree was a lot easier than some of the other exhibitions that we've had in the past. This was really very much about the color. It was about the detailings of the dresses, and then also just a feel of when these dresses were being worn in time. So I'm going to go through each room and just kind of explain what was happening. All right. All right, so the entry hall tree is based off of the two dresses that you see here. We couldn't decide which one we wanted to use, so we decided that we were going to do a combination of both dresses. So in the tree, you will see beautiful reds, and you'll see how that picks up from the dress on the right. And then you'll see all of these flowers that picks up on the dress on the left. So here we are at the entry hall tree. And again, I really wanted to get that sense of a feeling that as you're walking into the mansion, you also get a sense of what was outside that you just either walked past or walked through. So our gardens, I think, are something that obviously are very near and dear to me, but also it's something that was in Marjorie Merriweather Post's time, very important to her as well. And so this idea of having flowers that we actually grow here at Hillwood in the permanent botanical form in this tree was important to me as well. So we have dahlias, which we always have in the summertime, and then also roses, which we have in our rose garden as well. So again, this is really playing off of the two dresses where you had that floral theme, but then also the amazing red and then big bow on the side of the dress. So here you can see a close-up of this giant bow, and I have it off to the side slightly, just the way it was in the dress, or off to the side of the shoulder as well. And this is just a couple of more images, close-ups of the tree. And then this is on the left side, the back side, looking in from a different perspective of the tree. And then we always do a garland as well, and that is what you see on the right side. And we try and make the garland also to be in the same theme as the tree. And of course, none of this can get done without the amazing help of our horticulture staff. So this year, Jarrett, who is featured on the left, and Dan, who is featured on the right, they were the ones tasked to create my vision for the entry hall. And I am here on the left side talking with Jarrett a little bit about the tree and how well I think it's going. And then I just thought this was a funny image, a sort of behind the scenes look on the right hand side of how we actually get everything decorated by putting down the tarps and bringing up all of our boxes. So one thing, in case anyone hasn't been on a tour before, I just like to go over really quickly the amount of time that it takes for us to get our trees installed and then decorated. So we start at 5 o'clock on that Sunday before Thanksgiving. It takes us typically around 3 hours to bring up all of the trees and bring up all of the ornaments, and then also make sure all the lights on the trees work, which is always a little bit of a hairy scenario. And then we also have to sometimes string on lights ourselves. So this year there was 4 of us who helped to do that. And then come Monday morning, it was the entire horticulture staff, and everyone was assigned a tree. I like to go over with the different teams of what it is that my vision is for the tree. And then I really like to leave it up to the people who are decorating the tree to really put in their own persona into the tree and how it is that they also are interpreting my idea. And then I'll sort of bounce around from room to room to check on things and see how things are progressing. But it really is a lot of the horticulture staff, putting in a lot of hard work and a lot of creativity to make all of this become a reality. And so right now we're looking at the dining room tree. And I really wanted to bring up the sort of collar of this dress to really incorporate it into the tree by having all of these beautiful elements that we're going to be dangling and sort of hanging off of the tree, just like you see with the dress here. So this really was all about gold and crystals and things kind of hanging. Here's a close-up of the tree so that you can kind of get an idea for the beautiful ornaments that we were using. And then the other thing I always love to think about is having the trees be able to fit into the decor and the color scheme of the room. And this year, I really feel like the dining room tree really picked up that beautiful painting in the background that you see on the right hand side, and it really feels like it could be there all year round. Here's some more just close-ups of the tree, and again really how it picks up so nicely with that painting. And here we have Michael on the left side and Marshall on the right side. And this tree in the dining room, she is a very big girl. So it takes a very tall ladder, and Marshall is bravely up there getting to the top of the tree. And the top of the tree, I had this idea that I really wanted to sort of incorporate, you know, what would a princess be eating for dessert? And of course, I thought that the one thing that would be beautiful would be a croquembouche sort of inspired tree topper, especially with all of the gold elements for this tree. So we took that idea and kind of ran with it. This is a lovely behind the scenes photo of how they were laying out some of the ornaments before they were putting them on. All right, so our next room that we're going to go into is the French drawing room, and we decided to use the pink polka dotted dress. And with this design, I really wanted it to be sort of really feeling like polka dots, and then also mimicking the bow of the dress. So as you can see on the right side, we did a really big bow to emphasize the bow from the dress, and then we stuck with all pink and then these diamond ornaments to really kind of keep the shape of obviously a polka dot and really try and express that feeling from the dress. The other thing that we did with this dress or with this tree is we used a tulle tree skirt to incorporate that tulle feel of the dress. And as you can see with this tree as well, how lovely the color scheme fits into the French drawing room. Here's some more close-ups of the tree. And again, like looking at the tree with the porcelain, it feels like it could just be there all the time as well. And then we have May on the left side and Drew on the right side, who are the ones in charge of decorating this tree for us. And so our final room that we're going to be looking at is the pavilion. And when I went and looked at the dresses back in, the first time I got to see them, I think in July, I was really drawn to this dress and immediately thought of the pavilion. There's always something about fringe to me that it provides a lot of movement. It's really fun. And I always sort of associate fringe with dancing. So I thought, what better way to tie in things that have happened in the pavilion in Marjorie Merriweather Post time. She held all of those dances in the pavilion, and it was sort of a party room. And again, to me, that just says fringe and kind of fun and flowing. So we used the same colors of the dress and pants set to then come into the tree with like these blues. I wanted to have a couple of different shades of blue just to give the tree a little bit of depth. But then we have the wonderful fringe as a garland are wrapped around the tree. And then we actually have fringe tassels that are adorning the tree as well. And here you can see, again, I went with the croquembouche dessert theme for the tree topper here as well. I thought it was nice to have 2 trees with bows as toppers and then 2 trees with this croquembouche dessert as a theme, as a topper as well. And again, here's a close-up. You can really see the fringe with the tree. And then just some other beautiful shots that were taken by Lizzie. And then we have Sarah and Jessica who are working on this tree together. And again, I cannot express how grateful I am for all of my horticulture staff and everyone who was able to provide help and input and information that goes into the trees. It's a fun time of year. And I hope that you can be inspired by seeing some of the trees to help decorate your own trees at home. The one thing I do also like to sort of talk about, just because I am always sort of amazed by it, is that this year we repurposed 90% of the ornaments that are on the trees this year. And we are able to, take ornaments from years past, things that we had on the trees last year as well, and really repurpose them and give them a new life and make it a completely different thing. And I think a lot of times people don't even recognize that they are some of the same ornaments that we've used in years past. And I think that that also helps tie into when you're going to think about decorating your own tree, because you can take inspiration from the fact that we are using a lot of the same elements from years past as you would as well, but we're rethinking it and we're putting a new spin on it. So hopefully this gives you a little inspiration, and I am very happy to take any questions, and I'm sure Quintis is as well. Thank you for your time.
Right, thank you for the spectacular tour, Quintis and Amy. I think we can all agree that that was a beautiful, beautiful presentation. And if anyone hasn't been at Hillwood this December, I encourage you to go and see these spectacular trees. And also, hello again. My name is Sule, and I'll be moderating today's chat. Right, we've got quite a few questions already happening. So this first question is going to be directed towards Amy, comes from Kirsten Shirk and Rhoda, and they are wondering, are the ornaments part of our permanent collection, or do you procure new ones every year?
So they are part of our permanent collection, but not historical ornaments. These are not ornaments that were Marjorie Merriweather Post ornaments, but some of them are vintage, and they do date back almost to around the time that she was here. We typically try and get ornaments that will specifically tie into a theme, but otherwise I really do like to try and repurpose the majority of the ornaments that we have on the tree.
Awesome. And now this next question comes from Rick, and they are wondering, between you, Quintis, and Amy, do you guys have a favorite tree this year?
Well, I absolutely love all of the trees that Amy and her crew have done. I mean, they're all spectacular, and every room you walk in, you're like, they're just all so beautiful. So I don't know that I have one in mind. I like them all. So if I had that much space in my house, I'd have them all.
Well, I would say that Quintis was my favorite tree. One, because it was just so different from anything that we've ever had at Hillwood before. And I think that the thought and the passion that went into it really shows with the tree. And it was, again, one of those things that it was just really fun to see how, because I feel like obviously we're reusing a lot of the same ornaments for our trees in the past, and I tend to sometimes get them mixed up from year to year. But with Quintis's tree, it's just so brand new, and it's just so absolutely different that it was really kind of fresh and modern, and I really loved it.
Thanks,
But
Amy.
I do love it still, not past tense.
Thank you, Amy and Quintis. Now, this next question comes from Diana, and they are wondering, is there any representation of what MMP would have as a Christmas tree today?
So again, Marjorie Merriweather Post was never at Hillwood during the holidays, but I have seen only, I think, like one tree that was down in her Palm Beach estate. So I think the closest thing would be this year would be the pavilion tree, because I know that her tree that she had, or at least the tree that I saw a picture of, had a lot of, almost it looked like tinsel and a lot of things hanging and kind of like draping from the tree. It was more in the shape of the French drawing room tree, but just in terms of the ornaments, I feel like the pavilion tree sort of at least has that kind of fringy feel that I saw the picture of.
Awesome. And another question about the trees. In the main hall specifically, was it made with fresh flowers, and how do you keep them from wilting?
You keep them from wilting by having permanent botanicals. So they are not fresh flowers. These are flowers that have been procured over the years, but they're silk.
Wonderful. And now this next question goes to Quintice from Kid. Quintice's tree is so original, 2 exclamation points. Can Quintice speak more about why she created a steel exoskeleton?
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those unconventional type of people. I love to do unconventional trees. So just kind of coming up with a different element or a different type of material to be used was definitely the first thought in my mind. But to be honest, the original concept came about because I did a walkthrough with Amy into the mansion, and I was just so inspired by all of the different parts and pieces of the collections, from the trinkets to the Fabergé eggs to the jewelry. All of it felt like, okay, maybe I could create something that if this was miniature size, would she want it in her collection? So basically I designed a giant trinket. And so using the steel, I decided to use the steel just in case it was going to be bigger than it was, just to make sure that it was sturdy to be in the hall. So having it with the interior tree, it had to be a product or a material that could withstand the structure. So there's no center rod through the middle. So it had to be constructed in a material that was sturdy enough to hold all the tiers in place and be structurally sound.
Incredible, simply incredible. Right, and another question for Quintice. Are the lights in your tree yellow and white? It seems like they provide a golden light. Your design is very clever way to decorate a tree.
Thank you. They're all white lights. I think because there is also the deco mesh inside the tree that is pink and gold and white, that it kind of helps the color bounce around a little bit differently within the tree. In addition to that, because it is kind of caged in by the exoskeleton, I think it also bounces light a little bit differently with its reflection.
Wonderful. And then one more question about the metal tree is, how did you keep it with such a feminine aesthetic? Since working with metal tends to be, a more masculine, I would say, stereotypical kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, well, this was actually a very good question, because it was a lot of back and forth between me and Mauricio of M&S Steel. I kept saying I needed to be a little bit more delicate. I needed to be a little bit more delicate. But the more material we took away from the tree, the structure would be a little bit weaker. And so I had to come up with a design that was going to be still sort of curved, kind of giving it that fresh feel. I love the whole circles, kind of gives it that element of softness as well, instead of being too rigid. We also went back and forth about making sure that the tree had some curves to the edges so that it was reminiscent of an actual Christmas tree. It was recognizable as a Christmas tree, I should say. The original design was a little bit too rigid, and it looked like, not even sure. It looked more like a tool versus an actual tree. So by adding all of the curves and the circles, we were able to really make it look a little bit more delicate.
Wonderfully said. Right, thank you, Quintice. And now let's see. I believe we have time for one last question, and this one goes to you, Amy. says from TC, and I am so sorry if I am pronouncing your name wrong. This one says, Marjorie Post liked to decorate her dining tables with smaller trees during the holidays. Have you ever, or would you consider decorating the dining table with small trees, as MMP might have if she were at Hillwood today?
Excellent question. So what usually happens is we go off of whatever the table setting is for display at the time. So I know that we have done floral arrangements on the table right now, and we try and incorporate that to match the place settings, to match the breakfast room, and then to also match with the tree as well. So we're trying to tie in 3 different elements into one floral design. But we have done in the past, not necessarily trees on the table like she did, but we do holiday themed floral designs for the table. But that's something that I would be discussing with Kate and with Wilfred and with Jessica, to see if that would be something we would do in the future.
Thank you, Amy. All right, guys, and I believe that was our last question, guys. Right, thank you again to everybody that was involved in today's tour. This was absolutely incredible, and thank you to our audience for the incredible questions that they have asked. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Please come see the trees in person if you have not, right? They are an absolutely breathtaking sight to behold. Again, thank you to Amy and Quintice. We hope everyone here has a wonderful, wonderful holiday season.
Great, thank you, Sule. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.